All right, I think we're close enough in time being correct, so I want to call the order of the Department of Transportation Board of Directors meeting scheduled for today, June 9th of 2025, time being 9:30 a.m. And we'll kick it off with roll call. They're not working. Oh, it's in the ceiling.
Good morning, Governor Joe Lombardo.
Here.
Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony.
Here.
Controller Andy Matthews. You said, oh, okay.
Anthony, we didn't hear you.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Member Virginia Valentine.
Here.
Member Frank Lepre.
Here.
Member Justin Kalb.
Here.
And Member Gary Correa. Here. Governor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We move on to the first opportunity for public comment. Public comment may be provided in person or by calling 775-888-7440. The call will be placed in a queue and caller will be notified when it's their turn to comment. We'll limit the comments to 3 minutes. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under public comment period unless the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an action. Do you have any public comment there in Las Vegas?
No.
I don't know. Okay. Do we have any public comment here in Carson City?
No, Governor, we don't have anyone in signed up or online for public comments.
We'll close first opportunity for public comment, move to receive the director's report. Information on all these.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Slide. All right, county tours begin this month in just another week. We coordinate and partner with our local governments throughout the year, and along with holding project and other meetings with them. County representatives are also part of our transportation planning advisory committees, freight advisory committees, and our advisory committee on traffic safety and more. As part of the engagement process, we also hold a schedule of more formal meetings, and these are the county tours. We hold these with the rural 14 counties, Washoe, Clark, and Carson. We are on the MPO boards, so we meet with them on a monthly basis. So every other year, we hold county workshop coordination meetings with each county transportation engineering staff to identify transportation conditions and needs. We track, evaluate, and prioritize each request and share resources and updates. The following year, we hold county tours. The director and executive staff update each rural county commission on the status of the transportation things from the former meetings. So it's just part of our process of meeting out there. I also want to point out that we also received governor and legislative approval for a rural county specialist position to work with all the the city managers, the mayors, the councilmen, commissioners. This is just to really help enhance the communication out there. We found we were doing really well across the staff level, working with their boards, but we really need to kind of also regularly meet with the leadership in those areas. And on this next slide, I was going to let our head of communication and government affairs, Bill Harrington, just give a legislative update on the things that affected NDOT.
Very good. Well, good morning, Director, Governor, and board members. I'm Phil Harrington, the Communications Director for the record. We are pleased that the 83rd legislative session is in the books. It ended very early in the morning on June 3rd. NDOT did receive its base budget request as proposed in the executive budget. And as the director mentioned, we did receive approval for a new position, which is that rural community specialist to really concentrate on non-urbanized counties within the state. NDOT also received the bonding authority for several major projects throughout the state. Now, Governor Lombardo has signed a few hundred bills into law already, but just to highlight a couple for you, we are very excited that Senate Bill 315 passed. This is the bill that gives NDOT the ability to utilize the progressive design build approach for the Interstate 80 east of Sparks widening project. We think that might create some great efficiencies and help us deliver that badly needed project to the community much sooner. The governor did also sign into law Assembly Bill 111, which criminalizes driving the wrong way on a freeway in the state, which is a safety problem that unfortunately we have seen, and we certainly hope that is a deterrent. There are many other bills that are still being considered by Governor Lombardo, and he does have 10 days from the receipt of a bill to consider it and for potential action. So there are a number of bills that we are continuing to track closely. And that is your legislative update for this morning.
Was that a hint?
Not at all.
Thank you. Next, we're holding on the I-80 East Widening Project from Vista to USA Parkway. We'll have a public in-person hearing on June 25th at the Rainbow Bend Community Center in Lockwood. It's also the virtual meeting started today, June 9th, and the public can view materials, ask questions, and leave comments for the public between now and July 18th. And you can get online at i80east.nv.com. That's also on our website. The environmental assessment has gone through NDOT review, FH review, and participating cooperating agency review, and is currently we're anticipate an NEPA approval in the next month, and followed by a final design when we're hoping to begin construction as early as 2027. And as Joe said, we are really evaluating progressive design build as an alternative delivery method for this project. The I-215 Henderson project. On Wednesday, May 8th, I attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the I-215 Winding Project. It's rather unique. It's a City of Henderson-led effort that falls within NDOT right-of-way and is funded by Clark County. So it's a good partnership all the way around. It will add 2 lanes in each direction between Pecos and Stephanie Street, along with ramp upgrades and additional turn lanes at key intersections. The diverging diamond interchange will be built at Green Valley Parkway and a new pedestrian bridge at Village Walk Drive between both sides of the district. We are NDOT provides oversight and technical support. This is a $140 million investment funded through Clark County's Beltway funds, and the Henderson will be managing the construction. On the I-15 South Widening Project, there are pretty major lane restrictions in place for this widening project over the next few weeks. The northbound I-15 will be reduced to 3 lanes 24/7 between Silverado Ranch Road and Blue Diamond Road. The auxiliary lane is closed through July of this year, and this will cause some delays throughout the corridor. This is for the roadway excavation and widening. The dense grade paving will continue through this month, and the open grade begins in July and will continue for the next 2 to 3 months. It will widen the freeway and make improvements along nearly 9 miles of I-15 between Sloan Road and Warm Springs Road. And then the project is on schedule with an anticipated completion date of December 2025. I-15 becomes I-11, just another kind of advancement for the I-11 coming up from the south. We began work in October 2024 to replace the signage along the I-515 US 95, US 93 corridor from the Henderson interchange to Kyle Canyon Road, following the Federal Highway Administration's designation of this route as Interstate I-11. Most of the ground-mounted signs have been installed, and we're now transitioning to the installation of the overhead signs. This work has been taking primarily during overnight lane restrictions to reduce the impacts to driver. The corridor will now carry the I-11 designation while retaining the US 95 and US 93 signage, with the I-11 taking precedence. And this will all be completed in all of this year. And this last one, we can do this. We've mentioned before the Skill Bridge program. It's been a very good program.
Welcome to the NDOT Information Technology.
Go ahead.
Welcome to the NDOT Information Technology Division. We're happy to introduce our DoD SkillBridge interns.
Jose Chajon, U.S. Army, retired 20 years.
Darshawn Wells, E4, U.S. Air Force, EASing up to 4 years in the military.
Victor Valencia, United States Air Force, Master Sergeant, retired.
I'm Brendan Torpy, United States Air Force, retired Master Sergeant.
Having the opportunity to start this program within IT and bring guys on, the SkillBridge interns, they come on with real world experience. So we bring them on, and then we can make use of those skills they already have and help them make that transition. So when I heard about SkillBridge program, I got very excited, because when I transitioned, we didn't have anything like this and that kind of stuff, but there was really nothing to help you make that transition. It's good for the veteran and it's good for NDOT.
It's like a family community here. Everyone takes care of each other. This means a lot to me, the opportunity to work in the civilian sector. This skill bridge opportunity will try to at least open that door for me.
We get a lot of guidance, specifically because I get to use what I know, my background in education in computer networks and cybersecurity, and be able to apply it here hands-on.
It's very important, especially if you're someone that's trying to transition into a new career field, so you can use this program to leverage that experience. It can just help you get a transition into civilian life as a whole. Check it out, look into it yourself, and see if it applies. The NDOT, being an intern here, has really put my mind at ease, preparing me for civilian life.
There's great opportunity for NDOT as a whole to benefit from this program. We get the extra personnel to come in and help us get some of the work done that we need to get done. Seeing the excitement on these guys' face when they come in and they realize, oh, this isn't just them telling me what to do, but they're actually helping me transition from the military to civilian life can be stressful. And anytime we can help relieve that stress, it's just a great feeling.
We have been very pleased with the success of this program. So it brings in veterans, well, it brings in military personnel in the last 6 months of their military career, and then just transitions in. So it has worked out extremely well for us. And also the military pays for it. So it's a great benefit all the way around. And that concludes my report.
Are they still paying for it?
They pay for it during the last 6 months, and then either they can come on permanently with the state or move on to
No,
other.
is the military still paying? No.
As of
We
last
lost,
week.
we lost funding through the STAR program with the youth. So I didn't know if it was part of the same issue.
As of last week it was, so I haven't heard that it has.
Yeah, question, Director. On the I-15 becomes I-11. Is that a conversion of the 93, 95?
No, because they're all there, they're jointly there. There's a place where all of them run consecutively together, but I-11 takes precedence. The interstates take precedence over the US routes.
Okay. So is it gonna be that way in Google?
It does say I-11, and actually it throws me off a little bit because it's still new to me, even though it's been around for a little while.
Huh.
People will say, well, let's go down the I-11 too, and I'm like, I-15 to me.
Any questions of Director Larkin or any board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, consideration of approval of the May 12, 2025 Nevada Department of Transportation Board of Directors meeting minutes. Possible action. Do you have any questions, concerns, deletions associated with the meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Gary? Do I have a second? I'll second. I have a second. We have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're having a little trouble there, Lieutenant Governor. Did all of you say aye or?
Yes, everybody said aye here.
Okay. Motion passed. We'll move on to consent agenda, which has no items. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and then we'll move on to section 4, additional business item. Item number 5, proposed changes to the Nevada Department of Transportation 2025 Performance Management Report, informational only.
And Mark Wooster will present this for us.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, good morning, Governor. Good morning, members of the board. Thank you. This is the changes to the 2025 Performance Management Report. So this past December, this board received the 2024 Performance Management Report. And in December 2025, I will be back here with the 2025 Performance Management Report. Ahead of that, I wanted to present the changes coming your way in this report. The first one is an internally focused measure related to required employee training for NevadaDOT employees. We've been increasing our goal by 3% ever since 2018 in this regard. Back in 2018, our goal was 77% compliance with required training, and we had achieved 81% compliance. 2024, our goal had increased all the way to 95%, and we had achieved 90% compliance. And what we're realizing is that we're encountering the law of diminishing return, whereby with new employees onboarding and employees promoting to supervisor and encountering additional training required, getting past that 95% on to our ultimate goal of 100% is going to be difficult. So we are leaving the goal at 95% for 2025 and for future years. And that gives us something to work towards. And we will see if we can reach it in 2025, how close we can get. Moving on to the next performance measure that has changes, performance measure 5. Now we're into those externally focused measures. This one focused on improving customer satisfaction and public outreach. There are 2 changes to note with this performance measure. One of them is just wanted to formally note that our customer satisfaction surveys are through our Zendesk software. We are not expending consultant dollars to conduct standalone customer satisfaction surveys. We're doing it through Zendesk. Zendesk came online in mid-2021, and since that time, we've been recording the surveys. Members of the public will bring questions and concerns to NDOT through Zendesk. After we resolve those concerns, we ask them to take a brief survey and rate their satisfaction with their experience. At quarterly and at the end of the year, we aggregate those responses and come up with our customer satisfaction rating. So I just wanted to make it clear that that's how we're calculating our customer satisfaction for this report and going forward in future years. The second thing to note on performance measure 5 is that Twitter or X has started to charge for some of their metrics. So this year we will not have all the same metrics as in past years in our report. Our metric for Facebook and Instagram, those 5 metrics that we report will remain unchanged. We still have 2 metrics for our LinkedIn account that will still be there. And we will still maintain a presence on Twitter or X through the Public Relations Office, but we will not be paying for any metrics. We'll only be reporting on metrics we can obtain at no cost to the state. Moving on to performance measure number 7. This one is related to constructing projects, streamlining project delivery from bidding to construction completion. This measure has 3 parts. The first one on the screen now being the budget component. This is basically a cleanup item, cleaning up the wording in the performance management report to make sure that it's consistent with the calculations that are being performed. As you can see, our goal is that 80% of projects meet under 110% of awarded contract price. So constructing a project under 110% of the awarded contract price. As you can see, we're meeting this measure, and we just wanted to clarify the wording in the report. On the next slide is the second component of this performance measure, which is the scheduling component, the number of working days to construct a project. Again, we're just clearing up the wording in the report. Projects constructed under 110% of assigned working days will be considered to have met the target for this measure. And we're clarifying the wording in the report. If we move on to the next slide, the third portion of performance measure number 7 is the change orders component. And we are revising the metric from 3% to 6% of contract value to be more consistent with other state DOTs and be more realistic national average. We ran the numbers based on 2024 data, and as you can see on the graph on the lower right-hand side there, it doesn't make actually as much difference as you would think from 75% of contracts to 79% of contracts. Our goal being 80%, this still gives us room to grow and improve. And we do track change orders internally. There's many reasons for change orders. Could be errors and omissions, which we need to minimize. Could be value added to the project, where it's actually a negative amount, where there's value being brought back to the department and the public's cost savings on the project. Could be unknown or differing site conditions or other causes, administrative or what have you. So in this 2025 report, we will get in and add the percentages of what's causing these change orders, how many are errors and omissions and so forth, and work towards our goal of 80% of projects having less than 6% of change orders on that contract. Moving on to performance measure 13, the last performance measure that we are changing in the 2025 report. This one has 3 parts as well. The first part being the percentage of scheduled projects delivered within the planned year. Now, with funding sources changing, different types of grants and funding, cost escalation making it harder to deliver a project within the planned year. This relates to if we say we're delivering a project in 2026, did it get delivered in 2026? We're revising our target from 80% to 70%. That's more in line with other state DOTs. And as you can see with everything going on in the world of scheduling and estimating today, that will give us plenty of room to grow. Moving on to the next slide, the other 2 elements of this performance measure are the intermediate cost estimate and the final cost estimate. The final cost estimate is the one we really want to compare to the awarded contract amount. That's where the rubber really hits the road. So we're proposing to keep the intermediate cost estimate internal, continue to evaluate that internally here at the department, but not report it in this report. We're going to report the final estimate and compare that to the awarded contract amount because we believe that is more meaningful. And as you can see here, we've reviewed the Federal Highway Administration guidance on engineers' estimates. They have a document they've put together, and in that document, they advise the target to be 50% of the project estimated within plus or minus 10% of the awarded contract amount. That is the standard they set forth in that document, so that is the standard we're adopting for this report. 50% of projects estimated within plus or minus 10% of the awarded contract amount. And you can see from that graph there how we've been performing over the past 10 years relative to the 50% target, plus or minus 10% on each of the projects. So we'll continue to tighten up our estimates to the maximum extent practicable. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
This is Member Calb. I have a question for you. On PM7 on the change orders, we went over this in my briefing with Jay. I don't know what good it does for you guys to track change orders without breaking it completely down and actually tracking the 3 segments that you talked about tracking internally. Because to your point, some change orders are a value add to the project, but some of them are unknown, and I think it's important that we track those and schedule those with goals to meet off of that as well.
I'd like to take this, Scott.
Sure, I can speak to it. My name is Scott Hine, Assistant Director of Engineering. This performance measure falls under my group. I agree with you, Justin. I think our intent was to track those 3 measures internally and still report them in the report. We were thinking, like you said, with the percentage basis, to actually hone in and see what percentage the errors and omissions are, what percentage the value addeds were, and what percentage the unknowns were. We do currently track that now. We can go back and report back to you on where our percentages are now, but we're about 6 months away from giving you the 2025 report. We can report it then. But I do think it would be helpful to know the percentage of good versus bad, so to speak, and so that we can know if our plans are bad, we can work more on quality control. If we're getting more value added, maybe that's a sign that we need to do more coordination with outside agencies. But there's some information to be gathered from those percentages. So I agree, we can report those in the report. It's up to the board if you guys would like to change, more detail in our PM measures. But right now, we just have the overall arching 6% measure with the breakdown in the report for the percentage of those 3 items.
Yeah, I would like to ask that you do break those apart, because to your point, certain change orders have a different effect than others. And value add ones are more important, but also knowing where we missed is important.
Scott Hine for the record. Yeah, we'll incorporate those 3 measures, percentages, in addition to the overall 6% measure. Would you like us to bring that back to you in the next board meeting to show us how you're going to break that out, or wait for the surprise at the end of the year?
I mean, we can go over it in a briefing or just present it next board meeting's fine too.
Well, Scott Hine for the record. How about we'll get the numbers from our construction group, and we can brief everybody, and we can decide if we want to put it in the board packet or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Larkin, is that amenable?
Yes.
Any other questions before Mark steps away?
Valentine here. On the first of the PM7 slides, streamline project delivery, bidding to construction completion, I just have a question. Are projects of all sizes given equal weight, i.e. is a project that's $100 million given the same weight in this data as a project that has worth $50 million?
I believe the projects are given equal weight. They are not weighted by dollar value.
Thank you.
We'll close agenda item number 5, move on to agenda item number 6, signature authority delegation for contracts and agreements, possible action.
And Maya Hua will present this.
Good morning, Maya.
Good morning, Governor and members of the board. For the record, my name is Maya Bourgeois. I'm Chief of Administrative Services, and I'm here to provide some answers to some questions NDOT received over the past couple months pertaining to signature authority limits, how they were determined, and the impacts if the authority limits were readjusted. To be able to answer those questions, I'll need to start with a slide that I presented the board with a couple last board meeting, explaining the difference between the two procurement methods NDOT uses to fulfill the required mandates to construct, operate, and maintain over 5,400 miles of highway and over 1,000 structures statewide. There are not many departments that procure for both service agreements and construction contracts, but NDOT is one of them. For NDOT, they use the term agreements to represent service procurements such as janitorial, software, and on-call design and engineering services. The 3 standard procurement methods for services are based off of estimated costs for the service need. For instance, if the service needed is estimated to cost less than $2,000, a single quote process can be utilized. If the estimated amount is $2,000 or more, but less than $25,000, a 3-quote method is used. Anything $25,000 or more a year is procured by a request for proposal, also known as RFP. There are many steps between pre-advertisement to advertisement through proposal submittals, But some of the major differences between service agreements and construction contracts are that RFP procurements are based on evaluation factors that are reviewed and evaluated by committee members. The highest scoring firm from that process then enters into negotiations. And if the negotiations are successful, can lead to an agreement being executed between the department and the firm. The term contracts, on the other hand, represents construction projects like mill and fill, slurry seal, roof replacement, and widening lanes. Unlike agreements, contracts only has one main procurement method that starts with the engineer's estimate being more than $250,000. Prime contractors must be financially pre-qualified to bid and must have a contractor's license. Bid bonds are also required to submit a bid, and the bid itself is bid item based, resulting in a low bid procurement process. Next slide, please. Oh, perfect, sorry, delay. A question was asked at the prior board meeting about timelines for contracts and agreements that require board approval. To represent this, an average time frame was created comparing the timeline with and without the board approval. For both processes with or without the board approval, advertisements for agreements is between 4 to 6 weeks. The review evaluation of proposals averages between 4 and 8 weeks. The reason for that time frame depends on if the procurement will be evaluated using a consensus review process or an independent review process. Consensus reviews require coordinating committee members' calendars to set up the consensus meeting. Also depends on how many proposals were submitted and providing the committee members enough time to review and evaluate each proposal. The notice of intent starts the negotiation process, which can last about 1 to 3 months. The notice of award and route to execute for an agreement takes an average 1 to 2 weeks. The difference is the additional time needed to get the agreement scheduled on the next board meeting's agenda, which is about 30 days prior to the board meeting. The average breakdown of this is about 14 working days for the staff to compile all necessary documentation and board packet, which involve reviewing, verifying, and formatting every page and document associated with that packet. Packets are mailed out to board members 7 working days or 11 calendar days before the board meeting. If there's a holiday or office closures, the timeline for staff is compiled and completed, or the timeline for staff to compile and complete the board packet is even less time. Looking back at the average timeline without board approval, a service provider procurement can easily take up to 5 months or more from advertisement to execution, which means the agreements that require board approval can take more than 6 months to complete, especially if the deadline for the board agenda is missed just by a couple days. We've mentioned on-call design and engineering service agreements, as well as crew augmentation service agreements. Those agreements are typically attached to construction projects and can impact the design/engineering aspect of future construction projects and/or the ability to move forward with a contract that's already been awarded. To align the timing on both procurement processes is challenging, but a critical part of successfully completing projects on time. All right, next slide, please. Now let's take a look at the contracts timeline. For both procurement processes with or without board approval, advertisement averages between 4 to 6 weeks. 2 weeks from bid opening, the bid review analysis team, also known as the BRAT, reviews bid proposals. It takes about a week for the BRAT meeting, to provide a recommendation to award or concurrence to award. And the difference between those two is the concurrence to award is the director approves it to move forward for board approval. The standard notice to proceed date is 30 days, but for projects in Clark County, it's 45. To capture all required signatures on a contract can average between 10 and 20 days. Again, the difference with board approval is the same as the agreements. To meet the deadline for the board agenda averages about 30 days and can take longer if we miss the board deadline by a couple days. Again, it's 14 days for staff to compile and review everything. The packets are mailed out 7 working days prior to the board meeting. And if there's any holidays or office closures, the timeline is condensed for staff. Next slide, please. All right, looking into the constraints and impacts of the timelines, agreements procurement process with the board approval can take 5 to 6 months executed. But I want to stress again that procurements can take longer, which means it can already take up to 6 months to execute an agreement. It can be challenging to navigate the state and federal fiscal year funding constraints given how long the procurement process can take. To touch on again, the timing to award agreements that are associated with construction projects is challenging, but a critical part of successfully completing projects on time. For contracts, there are additional constraints that impact construction projects, making the timeline for executing a contract extremely important. This include special events like Hot August Nights, Street Vibrations, and Formula One, and or coordinating between NDOT's board meeting and our partnering agency's board meeting for approvals. Weather plays a significant role in what is considered construction season as well. In District 1, which is the Las Vegas area, heat plays a role and can impact projects that involve asphalt like mill and fills, as well as bridge deck repairs. In District 2, which is Washoe, Douglas, Lyons, Story, Carson, Churchill, and Pershing counties, winter weather can impact projects for 4 to 5 months out of the year, so about November to March/April-ish. In District 3, which is Elko, White Pine, Lander, Eureka, Humboldt counties, winter weather can also impact their projects, but theirs can be up to 5 to 7 months out of the year. So October, November-ish, all the way through March, April, May-ish. When a contract is officially awarded, a notice to proceed is sent to the awarded contractor, letting them know when the project is expected to start, which again is at least 30 days when the notice is sent out, or 45 days for those projects in Clark County. Contractors tend to utilize that time frame to order necessary materials or products needed to begin the work on that notice to proceed date, as there can be financial consequences if a contractor cannot complete a project on time. In addition to weather impacts and the 30 to 45 day notice to proceed date, construction contracts must contend with the federal fiscal year closing and opening. FHWA requires 2 weeks to approve projects in the Federal Financial Management Information System, also known as FEMAS. This system shuts down prior to federal fiscal year end. So FHWA can close the current fiscal year and open the new fiscal year in the system. Typically, the FEMA system is not available for project obligation until mid-October, with the approval process taking 2 weeks. This effectively brings us to the end of October, beginning of November. This is a lot of information. So let me provide an example of the timeline for a construction project in District 2 without the board's approval. Okay, a contract advertises at the end of July, which takes about 2.5 months for the construction bid process. And because that project can't start until November 1st, due to the federal fiscal year opening and closing timeline, and the additional 30-day notice to proceed date extended to November 1st, on top of a mild winter, so let's just say 4 months, December through March. On the conservative side, it'll take about 7 months for that project to start, and that's without board approval and without the additional other outlying impacts. With board approval, this will extend the 7-month timeline to at least 8 months at a minimum. It is a challenge to navigate these different impactful constraints while producing the necessary projects to maintain and improve NDOT's roadways, to keep the public safe and moving in this ever-evolving and growing state. Next slide, please. All right, project costs have increased significantly since the last time the delegated signature authority was changed in 2011. According to FHWA's National Highway Construction Cost Index, from 2011 to 2024, construction costs have more than doubled in 13 years. A typical construction project completed in 2011 now costs 115% more. Basically, the level of value of the signature authority has degraded significantly. Next slide, please. Taking the increase in construction costs into account, we did a comparison of the number of construction projects executed for 2011 and 2023, the types of projects and the costs. Although there were 12 fewer projects in 2023, NDOT did award 3 more lane widening projects than they did in 2011, and only had 2 less standard preservation projects, which are the mill and fills. However, the total awarded amount in 23 was 248% more than it was in 2011 on NDOT's standard common construction projects. Next slide, please. All right, tying in all the information I just covered and bringing us back to the question about authority limits. Timeliness and cost increases were a large part of the evaluation process, but NDOT didn't stop there. They wanted to expand their reach and see what their neighboring state DOTs were doing. NDOT conducted 2 different analyses to see what their authority limits resided and to review the governance structure of their board and commissions. On top of that, NDOT also conducted a cost analysis of prior contracts and agreements awarded to evaluate the average range. Another factor is NDOT's contract and agreement procurement processes align with all state and federal rules and regulations and have been approved by FHWA in addition to being routinely audited by internal and external entities. During the April board meeting, I presented a couple of slides demonstrating the many different review checkpoints contracts and agreements are vetted through before the director signs them. If a contract or agreement is canceled, rejected, or re-advertised, it's done by the department through their established procurement processes. Again, the board will only be asked to approve contracts and agreements that have been scrutinized, vetted, and that are supported and approved by the department. To support this, a look back at the action items the board's been presented with. There's no known history of the board canceling or rejecting any agreement or contract. The board has asked for certain projects to be brought back for the board to discuss further, but those ultimately resulted in being approved by the board as well. Any additional reason, additional reason why NDOT was comfortable with the limit increase is because they also present the statewide transportation improvement, program, an annual work program, also known as STIP and AWP, to the board every year for approval. On top of that, NDOT continues to bring the board any controversial, political, and or unique contracts and agreements for approval. Next slide, please. Given the significance of the timelines, the increase in project costs, the research done on neighboring DOTs, the common standard projects that are being awarded by the director, the annual work program, the STIP provided to the board annually, the information report that's located in every board packet showing all contracts and agreements that have been approved by the director, along with the requirement that NDOT will continue to bring controversial, political, and or unique projects to the board for approval, brings us full circle. Next slide, please. Okay, given the discussions around this topic, NDOT wanted to provide a couple options. Number 1, NDOT recommends to continue with the current signature authority delegation limits, which is 40 million for contracts and 10 million for agreements. Number 2 is reduce the signature authority for contracts to 30 million and maintain agreements current limits of 10 million. Number 3 is kind of broken down into two parts. Reduce the signature authority for both contracts and agreements. The first option is 25 million for contracts and 7.5 million for agreements. And this is NDOT's second recommendation on top of number 1 listed in your board packets. NDOT's second recommendation, is the 25 million to the 7.5 million. And the third option is 20 million for contracts and 5 million for agreements. Should the limits change, NDOT will bring back the updated board matrix to the next board meeting. And with that, I conclude my presentation and we are here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, do we have any questions of Maya? By any board member?
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Frank Lepre, Maya, how many jobs has NDOT bid this year since January? And how many over $20 million in construction and how many over 5 million agreements?
Do not have that, but for the record, Maya Bourgeois, I don't have that at my fingertips right now, but I can provide that. So
Anybody
from the
else?
beginning of the year for both
Any of you
contracts
guys
and
have?
agreements.
Scott or Todd, you got any yet?
Yeah, for the record, Sajid Soloria, Deputy Director. I think if you're asking the limit, I would say maybe none. Most of the projects were under the below the threshold.
Okay. I kind of disagree with you when you talk about the 14 days or 11 days to get things to the board on a bigger job. I think if we use the internet, you send it, can't you send it to us that way or is that illegal?
For the record, Maya Bourgeois, it's actually a lot more difficult to compile everything for the board packets. So with the review process and what we need to do to pull certain reports, the informational report alone is extremely time consuming and it takes a ton of formatting. So there, within that review process, there's also internal checks and balances as well to make sure that it's written correctly in the notes section, because we do add the amendments, the prior amendments in that notes section as well. So that to take that 14 days, staff absolutely utilizes that entire time to be able to produce the front office with what we're deeming as like, okay, we've got all the pieces and components together, sending it to the front office to start having them compile everything from all the other different divisions as well. So it is an extensive project.
And I agree, and you have a good staff, but my saying is we could say, can't you just email it to us rather than mail it to us and save 5 days?
For the record, Maya Bourgeois, that is an option I think that we can actually look into. It was the way we mailed them and when we mailed them was decided upon years ago. So that is an option.
Might help us keep the cost down anyways from every day. The other question is why you
Hold on. So the story, do you have a response to that? Was there anything that prevented us from doing it via the internet?
No, I don't believe so. It's all public record. Board packet becomes part of the public record.
Okay.
That might be easier for all of us. Might just save a few bucks. The other question is you talk about putting jobs out in July. That's ludicrous to put a road job out in Nevada, in Reno, in July. Typically, those are bid in the winter months, aren't they? And please correct me if I'm wrong.
Scott Hine for the record, agree. When we do put out projects late in the summer, we generally expect them to be started the next year,
right?
The next construction season. Our goal is to put out as many projects as we can in November, December, January timeframes to give you contractors time to get their materials ready and hit the ground running when the weather hits nice. But as Maya mentioned in her presentation, there's lots of hoops to jump through along the way. And sometimes those timelines can slip into this time frame right now, May and June. And those can extend construction seasons. If I may, I keep going a little bit on this. You know, we set up working days for a contract, say 120. If the hoops are hard and we can't get the projects out early in the winter, sometimes we'll have to do 2 construction seasons to get through that whole 120 days. So this, added, approximately 30 days for board approval. Sometimes can extend a project into a second construction season. A lot of times, that's one of our performance measures is working days. Sometimes we go under, sometimes we go over. Just information for the board to just consider when making this decision.
Thank you. But best value for NDOT would be to have those jobs out in the winter months. Best value is October, November, and have the guys bid it. So for us, we should work together with your staff and get in the board and get everything out in the October, November, December, and get your best value so we can maybe put some more jobs down. So I think the board will work with you guys and what we need to do if we get in a bond. We're talking about something over $20 million underneath that for me, and that's my opinion. And 5 million on agreements. And that's what District 2 wants. The feedback I'm getting, District 2 wants to get it lower. And and as a representative from District 2, I'll be more than happy to work with you guys. If I have to come down here another day to make sure we hit a date, got no problem with that. So that's just me. So thank you.
So clarification on this, Scott, Director Governor Lombardo. Is there any physical issues associated with July? In other words, the federal payroll season, or not payroll, but just a budgeting season as compared to the July budgeting seasons and the biennium issue?
For the record, sir, Sajid Solari, Deputy Director. I'm going to also rely on Felicia to answer the financial questions. I just want to answer the question. Yes, the federal fiscal year is September 30th. We have to obligate projects prior to that. So sometimes the projects are waiting for readiness, coordination from other agencies that we are waiting on. But for federal fiscal year, we have to, and state, we are June 30th. We have to get those projects out. I don't know if, Felicia, if you have anything to add on.
I would just add that for our budget, what is really critical is the timing of the expenditures. And so as we're getting toward the end of the federal fiscal year and we're wanting to use federal funds, we need to make sure that we have the obligation limitation available to us. And so it takes a lot of advanced planning. And so when bids come in, if they vary from what our estimate is, and we're getting toward the end of that federal fiscal year, sometimes we have an opportunity get more obligation authority, but we never know how much that's going to be till the very end of the year. And so having more notice is very helpful for us in knowing what we can do within our budgetary constraints.
So with that said, can you actually offer a job without identified funding?
Sir, we could.
No, we can't.
So that timing's important.
Yes. Particularly federal, we need to show the total cost of the project. We will obligate an amount that we think is correct as far as our engineer's estimate. Plus any contingency we might have in the project would be included in that. But then when we receive the actual bids, we go back a second time with the Federal Highway Administration. And we do the same for our state projects. And we true up for that amount as well. So there's always two shots at the apple. One, what we think it's going to be, and then a second for what the bid comes in, which could be higher or lower. And we have to show every dollar before we can start spending on those projects.
Has it ever been lower?
Yeah, it has.
It occasionally has.
Not recently.
And one more thing. For the record, Sajid Solari, Deputy Director. So, sir, one more thing to add to it. Projects also tied to grants, and they have timelines to it. So certain projects cannot be advertised till the grants are awarded or not. So that factors in.
And if I may add, Rebecca here pointed out also we have to have our SIPA line, our State Transportation Improvement Program. And so if we're needing to align numbers and things like that, and work with our local government partners, our RTCs, to ensure that we're matching with their TIP, which then becomes part of our STIP. There's the timing consideration as well. And so that does factor in.
You have more questions, right? No. That was it? That's it. Hey, Maya, for the record, Governor Lombardo, what was When was the last time the board changed the thresholds?
For the record, Maya Bourgeois. 2011 really started the main change along with the board matrix. And then it was in effect, it went into effect December 31st of 23 is when this most recent threshold went into effect.
So it went from what to what?
It went from 300,000 for agreements to 10 million and 5 million for contracts to 40 million.
Right. Any further questions? This is an action item, so I'll entertain a motion.
I didn't have any questions, I had a comment.
Okay.
Reading through the materials a number of times now, reading about what the other states are doing. It seemed to me that, for most of the other states, the board acts more as a advisory type of a role. However, for us, reading the NRS, there was more responsibility put on this board than you can say than other states. And so I think we need to play a little bit, not an advisory role, but a more active role in approving some of these contracts. So I kind of am leaning towards more of, from with Frank's point of view, that we need to probably reconsider some of these, the thresholds. I'm not sure as concerned about the agreements. I'm okay with the 10 million for the agreements, but I do believe that the contracts are something that we do need to have maybe a little bit lower threshold. I'm more comfortable with the $20 million threshold. I think that just you went through in your presentation the amount of costs and the increases that are happening right now or have been happening, and the increases in cost makes me almost more lean more towards wanting to see the contracts and making sure that we're on top of those the contracts and the costs. Thank you, Governor.
Governor, this is Frank Leffery. I kind of agree with Gary. What is our role? But what is the board initially set up for, and what are we doing today? And I think we need to be more involved in some of the decision making. So I agree with that. And thank you, Gary.
Any other comment? We don't have video to you there in Las Vegas. I don't know if you're trying to talk to us or not. And apparently we don't have audio either. So.
This is Andy Matthews. I'm trying a different microphone. Is that any better?
Yeah, we have you there. Mr.
Okay. No questions down here. I think we're just awaiting a motion.
Okay.
If there is one.
Entertain a motion.
I have a motion to lower the construction limits down to 20 million and the agreements down to 5 million.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion for approval. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any against, nay? Nay. Motion passed. All right. Sajid, you got that for the record?
Yes, sir.
We'll move, if there are any further comments, we'll talk about agenda item number 7, contracts, agreements, and settlements pursuant to NRS 40813. Informational only item. Just like anything? Nothing? Sure. I just want to make up something. All right, we'll close agenda item number 7, move to agenda item number 8, second opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment there in Las Vegas?
No, Governor, we do not.
Any public comment here in Carson City?
No, sir, no one signed up with comment.
And no,
Nobody's online either.
okay. All right, we will move for adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
Right.
I said I'll entertain one, so I.
Oh, I'm listening to, motion to adjourn.
And a second. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Right. Those in favor to adjourn, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, nay. Motion passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.